All right, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, welcome. Welcome to our last webinar. Many of you are still kind of logging in, settling in. So as usual, we'll give it a minute or two to let other people make sure we're logged in and settle down. Really appreciate you taking the time. We'll try to give you some practical tips, suggestions, do's, don'ts for these last couple of weeks. So hopefully you can spend your time a little more efficiently. So again, settle in. We'll give you a few minutes, everybody else, to kind of get ready to go. And we'll start in a few minutes. Thanks so much. Okay, I think we're ready, settled in, leveling off there. All right, as I always say in these things, I'm not going to ask you how you are because I know it's going to be okay. So let's talk about where we're at, like always, where we're trying to get to. I'll talk more about this in a little bit, but remember, no matter how you're feeling, the goal is only to peak on exam day, not today, tomorrow, or next Monday. Progress, practice, fixing mistakes, whether you scored 80% on a set today or 50%, doesn't matter in terms of passing the test. Just like they say, a snapshot of where am I at today. I know I said this during the last webinar. Everyone kind of gets married to their number. The stats take on this biblical proportional importance. I get why it is important, and we'll talk about where you should be and all that stuff in a few minutes. But one set of 20, 30, even 100, good or bad, does not guarantee success or failure. You don't know on your bar exam. It's possible that on question 1 to question 50, you scored 80% correct. Also possible on question 51 to 100, you scored 45% correct. No one's ordering their Scantron after the exam to see how well they did on a set of 30 or 40 or 50. Everybody usually has a bad patch on those practice tests. Big deal. Question is the overall. So everyone gets focused on today. What about these questions? What about this one, John? You have to really think big picture. Over the next 3 weeks or so, how am I doing on hundreds of questions, not 1 or 2 or 3? So that is really, really the key. Another big picture. Balance. I talked about this again in the last webinar. It's even more important now. I'm also going to talk about, again, as I try to, the first-time takers, you guys finishing or have just finished your commercial course, and then the repeat takers who kind of been on their own. So I'll try to keep referring to both. Some of these are universal themes, but just so we're clear. As if you're a first-time taker, if you finished your lectures or you're about to finish your lectures, once you do, and even when you're still finishing some lectures for your writing MEEs, MPTs, all that stuff, the key is still to balance MBE daily practice with your writing. Too many students peak on MBE, hit a number, I'm okay with that, but I'm freaked out about family law or this essay or my MPT, and they drop MBE practice. And then they wait until a week later, Saturday, Sunday, and they do 50 or 100. That's a recipe for disaster. The goal is consistency, muscle memory, drilling the questions every single day. That's how you gain. You stop going from 70 to 50, but you even off at 65, 66. So no matter what you need to do for finishing your course, you're doing your own thing, repeat taker taking both parts. You have to balance the writing with the MBE. I'm recommending big picture, nothing's written in stone, just kind of broad strokes, suggestions. I recommend mixed daily set, especially if you're doing the state portion. 35, 40, 40, 45 into next week. Daily mixed set, all 7 subjects thrown together in exam mode. You log on, you can hit practice mode, exam mode. Hopefully you've been doing practice up until now to learn why you're right or why you're wrong. Now you got to wean off of that, go into exam mode. You got to mentally be able to let the last question go and go to the next. Again, the good news, bad news of doing practice all this time is when you hit that button, like I always say, there's a little flutter in your stomach. Please be green, please be red. Oh. And there's this emotional high and low. You don't have that on the bar. You need the discipline to focus on one question at a time. The good news is they're all just worth 1 point. The bad news is they're all just worth 1 point. One's no more important than the other, but they're all equally important. Don't give anything away. Don't let question 13 still be in your head when you're on question 23, because now you're going to give that one away because of the last one. I look at the MBE as 200 bar exams. Each question is a little exam by itself. No one's connected. There's no double word score. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So the earlier you kind of are able to have the little voice in here saying, issue spotting, dumb it down, shut up and pick it, clear my head, next one. That's not easy to do. I know that. That's why I'm talking about it. You have to train yourself to do that. So exam mode, mix set, all 7 subjects, 40, 45, 35, 40 if you need a little less time. Again, these are numbers are fluctuate, but you can, fluctuate a little bit. It's just a question of doing enough so that it represents a decent amount of questions, not too many, so you don't have time for your writing or MPT portion and or reviewing the law. That's a good practical number. Eventually, in a week or so, can you ramp it up to 50 if you have the time and the wherewithal? Yeah, I don't recommend more than that per day. You're going to burn out. The other problem, like I said, about the simulated exams, if you do too many of the 100 and the 200 exams, you're basically just chasing the number. You want to finish to see what you got. And I want you to focus over the next 3 weeks about reading better on each question, the quality of each question. You get 1 more, 2 more, 5 more, all of a sudden the overall score goes up because you're more focused on question by question. We'll talk about how to do that. I'm just saying big picture, bet more quality reading on a certain number than just say, I got to do 100. 40 to 50 mixed, exam mode. If you find after 5 days, come the weekend, you're really struggling with product liability, hearsay, individual rights. You have the subtopics. Too many people, in my opinion, do their practice sets this time of year just based on the practice. I'm going to do 50 product liability. I'm going to do 35 hearsay. That's not good, okay? Because you're padding your stats. You're not going to see the questions like that over and over again. If you see that one of those subtop, that's why I believe in the mix set overall. But after you've done a week of questions, you say, hey, this week I was really lower in X, Y, and Z. First thing I recommend is, hey, maybe I just need a refresher with the law. Look at the mistakes in those questions. Past questions, do the calendar, look up incorrect. Why did I miss these? Why am I missing these? Am I getting sloppy with my reading and I'm just picking defective product all the time and I'm not seeing when it's a different issue? Or I'm just getting sloppy with the law because I've been working on 14 other subjects the last couple of weeks. Always ask the why, because if you don't, you're just doing a lot of busy work. If you're forgetting too many of the rules, doing another 30 in product liability won't fix the problem because you're going to miss the questions for the same reason. You know the law, but you were getting a little sloppy with the reading. Do fewer and go slow. Slow reading is the way to improve. Recognize why this one is defective and that one is a warranty question. Issue spotting, read the facts. So I don't recommend the subtopic thing on a daily basis because it's not representative. It's not practicing for the test and you're padding your stats. B, use it as a great tool after a week or so, each week for the next couple and see where are my trouble areas. Then look at those mistakes. And like I'm always yelling, separate the rule mistakes from the reading comp mistakes. That's a good way, I think, of using that excellent tool as a good educational, as a fixing a problem, rather than just kind of doing custom little made exams. In addition to your mixed set every day, I recommend picking a random MBE subject. Today's my tort day, tomorrow's evidence, Sunday's con law, etc. and saying from the moment I open up my eyes till the moment I go to sleep, when I'm not reading, studying, doing a question. I'm in the kitchen, breakfast, lunch, dinner. I'm at work. I'm driving to work. I'm at home. I'm on a train. I'm watching old TV. I'm at Starbucks. I'm at the grocery store. I'm fixing dinner. I'm watching whatever you're doing when you're not focused on studying. Recitation of law, spit those rules out. The only, again, way you can keep that much more material in your head, again, for the next 3 weeks, is the power of the repetition. You'll be on some, when you take some of these practice sets now, everyone always tells me, I can't believe I forgot this. I can't believe I forgot that. Stuff that you knew, not the hard, just stuff you knew. But there's so much, something's always slipping out. The only way to catch it and put more back in is to push it out of here. Don't read, recite. If you honestly just forgot, don't panic. I go to my notes and my outline, I shove it back in my head. Better to figure that out now, July 11, 15, 19, and 20, than on July 29, 30. Every day, if you do a good review, a recitation of law for a week, guess what? By next week, you'll have covered all 7 subjects, and then you can do it 2 more times almost. Get a little bored, you want to do some tort in the morning and some crim law on the way home, you get the idea. Play with it. You don't have to do the whole outline every day. 13, 14, 25 tort rules in the morning, 25 crim law rules in the evening. That's a lot of law. Prove to yourself. And again, for all of my MEE essay writers, all these rule statements could pop up on any one of these essays also, 2 for 1. So mix set every day, exam mode, fluctuate the number, 40 is an average. Remember, if 33 are supposed to take you an hour, as they say, right? 33, 33, 33, 19. So that's almost 103 hours. 33 in an hour, you're doing about 40. It's a little more, an hour and 15, hour and 20. You do 15, 20 minutes of review. It's an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes. Still got the whole day for nothing but all your other stuff, essays, etc. And I'm reciting law. Play with it. That's a great balance to the other portion of the test. What about on the weekends, John? I want to do the 100, huh? What about those 100 question adaptive bar exams? I think they're very, very good. Again, my concern always with those, like I just said, is people want to do one after the other because they want to see the score. Here's what I got, John. That's what I hear all day long. Okay, I'm happy if you're scoring well, but again, if you're going to do them, I would be doing them this weekend, early next week. Don't do them 3, 4, 5 days of the weekend before the bar. You don't even have to do all of them if you're still working on your other course material from your bar course. Or if you're a repeat taker. I was holding them for the end, John. Okay, all right. I wouldn't do 4 in a row, 4 days in a row. I would do maybe one this Sunday, skip a couple, do your practice sets in between, then skip a couple days and do one. You follow staggered. Don't do 4 consecutive days. Don't do in a whole day. Because again, if you're doing both parts, I'm going to get to the MBE only people. If you're doing both parts, you do 200, you're not going to have time for everything else. And you're going to burn out. And if the score is low one day, you're going to panic and you're going to want to do a test tomorrow to see the number go up. The numbers only go up and stay up if you fix the rules and you're working on the reading comprehension. Those are the 2 things. They don't magically go up just because you're doing 1,000 questions in the last month. That's my point. That's why you're here. It's always about the why. So use the 100 question exams. You feel you want that assurance, that peace of mind as far as timing, etc. No problem. Again, it's just a snapshot, no matter what the score is, but let's talk about that as it relates to all the other practice. You're doing 100 questions. The difference between 59% and 65%, which in most jurisdictions is the difference between passing and failing, is 6 questions. 6 out of 100. 6. I know that if someone scored 59 out of 100 correct on a set of 100, out of those 6 questions, 3, and I'm being ultra conservative, 3 are rules they just forgot. And the reason they never really break the 59-60 number is they never put the rules back in their head. And there's minimum 3, there's a lot more, but minimally 3 of the reading, I missed that word. I read too fast. I second guessed myself. I changed my answer, God forbid. I didn't spot the issue. I got it down to the right conclusion, all that garbage. Fix that. Be honest with yourself. 3 more rules, 3 less reading mistakes, and oh my God, I'm at 65. I'm passing with points to spare. That's the point. Again, I can't get to every single question. But when I talk about reciting the law, battery, larceny, burglary, conspiracy, negligence per se, the definition, the definition, the definition, the definition. You can't speak enough of those definitions, have your outline, look at the elements and shove them back in your head. Can't be reading on the bar, it's not open book. Definition, recite rule. Think you don't remember the rules, have your cover of your outline next to you. Have your cards, one side of the card, look at the names, battery, trespass to land, trespass to chattel, dying declaration, business record, again and again and again. Rules, rules, rules. Got it? Mix set. All 7. Reciting law from one topic at a time or 2. Don't abuse the 100 questions. Use them sporadically every couple days. Do you need to do all of them to pass? No. If you can, if you have the time, great. But I'm much more of a proponent of the 47 days a week than 1 or 2 days of 100, right? Even the math, if you do 40 times 7, you're doing 280. You're doing an MB and a half. You do 200, you're doing what? You get the point. And that drilling, the drilling, the drilling, again and again and again and again and again, the exercise of the reading, that's what makes people improve. Good. The explanations. You get a question wrong. I said a couple of weeks ago, this month should be more about practice. You were in learning mode in May, June. I said July is to practice taking the test. You want to err on being able to practice more because you're not learning as much law. In the explanations, which are beautifully written on Adaptabar, comma, but the explanations are really emphasizing the law. So again, as I said earlier, too many students are reading paragraphs of law, but they knew the rule. So that's not why they missed the question. It was the reading. It was not spotting the issue. It was overanalyzing, etc. So when you read 14 lines of law, too many people are making new outlines from the explanation. But then I said, but did you know what trespass to chattel was? You knew what the rule was? You knew about novation? You knew about priority of a mortgage? Yeah. So what are you writing it down for again? It feels good, but it doesn't mean you're retaining. Because if you're writing it down for the 4th time, by definition, you're not retaining. That's why you just missed the last 3 questions. So in those first 2 lines of the explanation, when you get a question wrong, you should be able to know and recognize, did I forget a piece of this rule? Did I forget a piece of the definition? No, I knew this. Now go up to the facts and see what you missed with the reading. Don't read another 14 lines. Go see what you missed. The red and the green, as I'm always talking about. What's the difference between your answer and the correct answer? We'll talk in a minute about the same conclusion thing. This is a strict liability question. Why did I pick an answer about product liability? This was an attempt question. Why did I pick the answer about the burglary? I missed the issue. My answer had nothing to do with the singular issue in the facts. Oh, God. You're not going to get that from reading more minutia of law. If you forgot the rule, if you forgot what it means, and you need to read the 4 lines, 5, 10 lines of the legal explanation, of course you should. Great. It's a quick way to get the law back in your head. Or maybe you had the buzzwords in your head, but you forgot what it looked like. I'm always saying, you could remember a rule for third party, but you may not remember what it looked like, what the context is. They're going to explain that in the explanation. Okay, use the explanation to remember what it's about. You need a good example. It's going to be in there. But a lot of the time, you knew the rule. Don't read more. Don't waste time. That's too draining. Go back in the facts and see what you missed. Because what do? Then you make a little outline from the explanation. And you say, okay, when I see that next time, I'll get it right. But you never see it next time, because you're not focusing on the problem, which was the reading comp. So use the explanations as a way of, again, if I forget the buzzwordy rule, it's a great way to, as a quick review, to put it back in your head. Sure. But if you're honest with yourself that I missed this because of my reading, then focus on the facts and the answer. I talked about this before. I'll talk about it again. What if I'm getting it down to 2, John? I'm getting it down to 2. I always get it down to the right conclusion. What should I do? Let's talk again. If you get it down to 2, and you get it down to 2 for the right conclusion, yes, yes, guilty, guilty, etc. The 2 that come to the same conclusion are never about the same issue, never the same tort, never the same crime, never the same amendment. They're always talking about different issues, different crimes. One's murder, one's manslaughter, product liability, strict liability, negligence, negligence per se, character impeachment. So if you're staring at the two and you know John's going to win, but you don't know the why. And the why is, what's the issue? You don't know what the issue is because either A, you read too fast and skimmed to get to the bottom. B, you saw it, but you ignored it because you allowed another answer to look better to you, the so-called distractor. Listen to me. What do I always say? You're supposed to be going into the answers knowing what you're looking for, which makes 3 answers garbage. This time of year, when you get tired, stressed, burnt out, and you're reading a lot of stuff, you fall into a habit where you're letting the words of the other answers lead you. Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that. That's a good argument. You know what? In second thought, maybe, to me, John, all garbage. I got to go back and say, before I look at A and B or C and D, I already know what I'm looking for. So if you're looking at 2 yes answers, John's going to win, John wins. And one says John wins because Bob failed to exercise reasonable care. That's negligence. What do I care about the product liability for? I didn't see it was a negligence question. I saw it was a negligence question. I didn't commit to it. Yeah, he's right. I'm letting the other answer look better. That's your fault. That's reading comprehension. Not knowing the particular rule it's about, or knowing it, but then allowing the other answer to pull you over here, that's 10% of the exam for most of the country right now, right here for the next 3 weeks. That's why I say that when you're looking at the difference between the red and the green answer, this is what I'm talking about. Why? What was my answer about? What was the correct answer about? If you know the issue, this is strict liability, John. I knew it. I know the rule. 1A said yes because John's activity was abnormally dangerous. And D says the opposite conclusion. John doesn't win. If you know what the issue is, strict liability, and one says yes, one says no, guilty, not guilty, constitutional, unconstitutional, you get my point. I know the issue, but I got it down to the only 2 talking about that. By definition, these will always come to opposite conclusions, meaning you didn't read the facts carefully enough. Because if you read the facts carefully enough, you'd know why John's going to win or lose, why he's guilty or not guilty, why it's admissible or inadmissible. Again, what does it come down to? Go back to the facts. That's the key. And this time of year, too many people read too fast, they skim, and the big one, doing all the practice questions is necessary. That's the good news. The problem is when you do this many questions, and for my repeat takers out there, I mentioned this last month, if you've, God forbid, done this 2, 3 times or more, you have literally seen every which way they can ask every one of these rules. So your brain kind of gets numb. You're on auto. I've seen this. It's A. It's about the guy with the bus. It's D. I know that. You've seen all these things. Like the cliche goes, how many ways can you ask these questions, John? You're right. Not many. The problem is you're getting a little sloppy with which version of it are you looking at right now. That's the key. So again, quality over quantity. If I know the issue, is John guilty or not? The facts would have had to tell you. If I find myself that I'm focusing too much on the answers and getting sloppy in the facts, that's a huge problem. Because if you're doing it at home, you're certainly going to do it on test day. That's why I'm saying, A, forget about time. Focus on accuracy. I said this last time when we did the questions. I'll say it again for those of you that were not there. You have on average 1 minute and 50 seconds, the proverbial 1.8 minutes per question. What is your focus? To spend more of that 1.8 minutes in the facts and the question. So if you know what's going on and you know what the facts say, then when you go to the answers, you'll literally be spending less time in the answer. When you do too many practice tests, too quickly, number 1, number 2, let me do the next one, let me finish. You're so focused on finishing, like when you're finishing your courses right now, you're just doing the assignments a lot of time to check the box. So Barbara or somebody won't yell at me. I did 85%, I did my, but you screwed up all the reading. Focus on getting more right. It's a math test. A, if you focus another 20 seconds in the facts before you look at the answers, you're going to get a lot more right and you'll be done faster. Why? Because when you go like this to look at the bottom and get it down to 2, that's why you stare for 4 minutes. That's why you have to reread the hypo, and that takes another 3 minutes. Now it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You have a time problem. I'm saying flip it around. Bleep the answer choices. Just slow down up here. Let me make sure I know what the hell's going on. Did John intend to steal it, or did he just wanted to borrow it? What the hell did it say? Oh, he thought it was his own jewelry. Oh my God, he had no intent. C, done. The extra 20 seconds here gets you the correct answer in 2 seconds. You get it right, and you're done early. Rather than staring at the two, going eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and losing confidence. So again, the conclusion means you didn't spot the issue. The opposite conclusions mean you didn't know what the facts say. It's all about the facts. It's all about the facts. I'll say at the end of this thing, when that proctor says, begin, what should be your goal? Don't be the first one to rip open that book to start the test. Let all the idiots run ahead of you. They don't know where they're going. Take a deep breath, close your eyes, just read. Read carefully, read carefully. It's a reading test. Now go. Turn it into a reading test more than a lost speed test. You're done too early, you're finished, but you didn't get enough right. Again, I repeat myself what I said when we did the questions a couple of weeks ago. If the nightmare happens and you get to question 95 or 195, which isn't going to happen, but if it did, and the proctor says 1 minute to go, you're not going to fail. What do? You finish the one you're working on. You bubble in one letter for the last 5 or 6, which takes less than 10 seconds. You can try it out at home. Just bubble in 5 C's. Takes less than 10 seconds, not a minute. And statistically, if you do it with the same letter, you're going to get one of them right anyway. But the key is, did you get more of the first 96 correct? Because why does everyone care about question 99 and 100 to finish if they blew 20 of the first 97 because of poor reading and they read too fast? Why don't they get 20 more right of the first 96 because they were more careful and then not worry about the last 2 or 3? The Scantron only picks up the correct answers. Like I said earlier, everyone counts for 1. Practice slowing down now, and then it'll happen on the bar. Muscle memory. If I drill 40 something a day, doing every one the same way, that's what I'm going to do when I do 200. If I'm all over the place now, I'm going to be all over the place in the convention center. You're not miraculously going to be great on exam day if you practice poorly for 3 weeks. No one's going to practice perfectly. Intellectually, you know, I can't get them all right. All I need is to pass. That's trying to get into the lower to mid 60s than the higher 50s. I'd like to get to the upper 60s from the lower 60s. We're talking 4 or 5 questions out of 100. That's it. Rules, reading comp. So, mix set, recite law. Be more careful and focused on the questions I'm doing. Slow down in the facts. I didn't say take 4 minutes on the question. I said take more time up here so I know what I'm looking for, which makes more of the answers incorrect. Don't abuse the 100 question exams. Use them as a benefit. Don't abuse or overuse the explanations. Is it the rule? Then do use that as a review of the rule. If it's the reading comp, you don't need the explanation. You got to go back and see what you missed. Repeat taker, not doing a course. Again, I don't then say just go do 100 because you have nothing better to do. Because most repeat takers, again, have made previously a lot of the mistakes that I'm talking about now. They either practiced too much or took the commercial course 6 months ago or a year ago, were overwhelmed, and then defaulted to these lectures suck, I'm just going to practice. And you've done too many questions too quickly. Again, you got to be honest with yourself. People call me all the time this time of year. Hey, John, did the last 1,000 on adaptive bar, still only at 57%, 60%, 59%. I say to them, and you've been doing all these questions the last couple of weeks? Yeah. Do you remember the definitions of half of these things? Well, I'm learning it as I go. No, you're not. That's the problem. How do you get an extra 5% automatically? I would say lower the questions down to 15 or 20 and go put more tort, more crim law, more evidence. Because again, if you look at the table of contents of those outlines or your note cards and you can't turn them over and spit out more law, not all of it, more, then that's where you're missing a lot of those questions. I know the law, then I got to focus on the reading comp. If you're a repeat taker and you've done this 2-3 times, there is no quota of questions you need to do. Been there, done that. It didn't help. Focus really on slower and fewer questions per day, better reading. You need more questions correct. That's my point. That's the key. Not more for the sake of doing more. More questions correct. You're a first-time taker, you finish the course, the balance is really the key between just doing enough but not being negligent with your writing. And that balance is delicate. By the way, I recommend, and everyone has a different schedule, I recommend trying to do the MBE questions if you're not working in the morning. If you are, let that be the first thing you do, so at least when you're not exhausted and glazed out, etc. And that's where, as far as the review is concerned, you want to incorporate the recitation of law in all the other times during the day when you're not studying. Again, errands, in the car, bus, train, making meals, all the breaks, the dead time, as I call it. That's when you really want to be focusing on that. You've probably seen when you took a simulated test, the 100-question, or your own practice test. You're going to have some bad batches. Let's talk about that for a minute, okay? On Adaptabar, of the million reasons why the program is fantastic for the questions, they're giving you only real questions. They only have them because the National Conference of Bar Examiners released them to the public. I believe, I don't know, they would never tell me, and I'm too chicken to ask. I believe they do that to show you, like to wink at you. Hey, got intimidated by some of those commercial course questions? They get in your head. They're getting down to tiny little nuances of law. That's why you stick to these. There are crazy questions on Adaptabar. There are ones that make no sense. I can tell you there are questions I've been looking at for 22 years. I still don't understand how the answer's A. I'm telling you they're there. I'm telling you there's going to be 30 or 40 on your bar exam at the end of the month that no one in the country will have any idea what to do. That's what they're doing. What is that? What are those for? I think there's what I call little landmines. They strategically place the weird questions in a couple little places just to see who's going to lose their confidence, who's going to lose their timing, who's going to start second guessing themselves. I've said before, I make a living from just as many people who scored 80% on their last 3 practice tests and then failed the bar. Why? They got a little too confident, a little too cocky, and they began to anticipate where the questions are going, and then all of a sudden they change the facts ever so slightly. Got to be careful. That's only if you practice more carefully now, you will be more careful on the day of the test. They are giving you weird ones. They're giving you ones no one knows. Should I skip them, John? Hell no, you should not. What should I do? You read it and you dumb it down. And you say, I don't know what rule this is. I don't even know where they came up with this. But as I say in every webinar, every law graduate in America can take a paragraph and say, I don't really know the rule, but line 4, that's where this is going. That's the most important thing. I'm telling you that there's going to be only one answer down there that talks about line 4. Shut up and pick it, connect the dots. Always pick the most specific answer to what the facts are talking about, whether you know it or not. I'm not saying you're getting them all right. I'm saying you're going to maintain consistency. You're not going to skip any. You're maintaining your muscle memory because that's the same approach you're going to use on the battery question that you do know. Ultimately, what are you picking in the battery question? The most specific answer to what the facts say. Did I intend to commit the contact, and did I or didn't I? Once you know what the facts say, the answer you're picking is the most specific to the facts. If you can do it on the 160 you do know, you can do it on the 40 or so that you don't know. I don't promise or guarantee this. This is just anecdotal evidence. Many people seem to tell me that one session, morning or afternoon, was harder than the other. Some people come out at lunch, feel like I got 80 right, just like another Adaptabar set. Some people come out at lunch and say, boy, that was tough, man. A lot of those answers were, fine line difference, John. That was tough. And then in the afternoon, it switches. A lot of jurisdictions, they give you a different book to prevent cheating. I mean, ultimately, everyone's doing the same thing, but you get my point. So what does that mean when it's harder? There's a larger number, not a lot, a larger number of questions where the answers are fine line difference between the two. Answer choices that don't look like what you were expecting. The funky language, the weird language, not the buzzwordy definition in the answer. Don't panic. What happens? You see something you don't know. You see something you don't like. Yeah, I thought it was A, but that doesn't look like my rule. I'm going to go with D. Remember what I just said. Always pick the most specific answer to the facts. I'm the one telling you that hundreds of these answer choices do not look like your outline or note card. They're just in plain English. They use some weird words occasionally. But listen to me. Listen to me. This is the most important thing I'm going to say to you. I know where the question's going. I know. I may know the rule. I don't know the rule, but I know what the thing is about. On the weird ones, you're going to know with 1,000,000% certainty that A, B, and C are wrong. You are. A, that's statute of frauds. B, that's revocable offer. C, that's third-party beneficiary. D, I don't know what it means. I don't know what it is, but I know that A, B, and C are wrong. A, B, and C have nothing to do with this fact pattern. None. Then you're going to shut up and pick D. That's connecting the dots. Don't pick the other answer just because I don't like the one that I know is right. You've done that a million. I knew D was right, but I didn't pick it. Now you have to. You want to know how you improve in the last 3 weeks? There's another 1 or 2% of the whole exam. Don't go there when you know it's right here. I know that A, B, and C are wrong. I know they have nothing to do with this paragraph, but I don't like D. I don't understand D. I don't really know what D means. Shut up and pick it. Don't pick an answer you know is wrong. They're going to give you some of these just to see what you do with it. Again, what does the pitcher do after he gives up a home run? Tips his hat and says, okay, now I'm going to strike the next guy out. All the basketball players that miss 60% or 65% of their shots, they keep on shooting, but they take good shots, fundamentals. Stick to the fundamentals. If I read more of them correctly, I get more right. Not all of them, more. When you read it, it's a weird one. You dumb it down. It's got to be C. It can't be the other ones. I'm just going to trust what I'm reading. Shut up and pick it. Wipe it away from your head. Now I go to the next question. 200 little bar exams. One not more important than the other. They're all equally important. If you practice doing that day by day by day and get out of your bleeping head and focus on the facts, slowly but surely, those numbers improve and they will even out. If you can marry the law with the reading, always be trying to catch some rules that you don't know. That's all good. They're trying to get in your head. They're trying to ruin your confidence. Do not let them. You hit the wall, you know you're struggling, it's a bad set, get the hell away from it. Don't keep pushing with the questions when you know you're not paying attention. Well, I can't do that on the bar exam, John. I understand that, but if you just keep reading for the sake of reading, you're going to get more wrong and spirals, and then that's a slippery slope. Stop it, call a timeout, go to the kitchen and get a drink. I'm leading up to, if you see that on your practice test, the simulated 100 question, your daily practice test, do you seem to get the first 12 out of 15 right and then you peter off towards the end? Did you do great on the first 50 and bomb the last 25? Do you start off poorly and then you hit your stride when you get to question 30 or 40? This is again where you need a little self-diagnosis, self-awareness. I seem to, if you need a warm-up, I always miss the first couple, John. I got to settle in. I recommend night before the MBE, morning of the MBE in your hotel room. Have a couple of the silly reading mistakes you've made in the last week or two from Adapt-A-Bar nearby. Just read through them in your hotel room. Not to do them, just read. Yeah, I picked A. What an idiot. It was B. I know I'd never make this mistake now. Do the next one. I'll do a criminal one. Yeah, this is larceny question. Why did I pick guilty? He ended up with the watch. He didn't intend to steal the watch. I wasn't even thinking. I see it now. Use those as warm-ups. If you get your brain, especially if you're taking both parts, you know how it is on Tuesday. You're so focused on the writing and the MPT, all that stuff. You got to kind of mentally shift over to issue spotting, all the MBE multiple choice test taking skills I'm always yelling about. So use 3, 4, 5 of them as warm-ups at night or in the morning to kind of get your brain wrapped around seeing the right answer, issue spotting. Why am I picking A? And so when you begin the test, you've, quote, already done 4, 5, 6 questions as a, quote, warm-up. And now you're already in your stride. I don't need that, John. I'm a killer in the morning. I peter out. Okay. Then as I say to those people, hey, maybe you want to think about when you get to question 50 or 150, as many of my students do, they make themselves get up and go to the restroom. They splash some cold water on their face and they come back. They feel refreshed. Oh, but John, you need a proctor. It's going to take a couple of minutes. I know it will, but otherwise you're going to sit there and blow the questions. Be honest with yourself. Many people just need to put the pencil down every 25 questions, rub their eyes, just read. I'm okay, just read. Now let me start. Because when you're just doing this and you're doing this and you're doing this for 3 hours, you're going to start making some silly mistakes. So if you know you're petering out, if you know you hit a glazy patch, put the pencil, I'm talking 10 seconds, 5 seconds. Give yourself that mental, physical stretch, shake your head, rub your temples, whatever you need to, and breathe. And now let me start reading, excuse me. Okay? Get more right. Give yourself a chance on more right. So as you're practicing now for the next 3 weeks, keep an eye on. Are you losing it? Do you start off? Where are you? So when that happens on the test, you can kind of nip it in the bud a little quicker. Very important. Managing the test. Good? Good. What if I see a couple, so when I see my number goes down, John, I panic. I don't want to hex anybody, but generally speaking, everybody has a bad day, 1 day a week for the next couple of weeks. No rhyme or reason. I was scoring 68%, 65%. I'm killing it, John. And all of a sudden, I just had a bad day. Don't freak out. Usually that happens because, again, either A, you just burnt out doing questions and you should have recognized it earlier in the set and maybe just got off the program. That's perfectly okay. You know when you got the headache and you're glazing out. Just write it off. B, on every program, certainly on Adaptabar, you're eventually going to get what I call the bottom of the barrel questions, right? There's not a lot of the weird ones, but they're there. So in the first 50, 70, 150 of your tort questions, you're getting the commonly tested tort question. But eventually you're getting a couple of the weird ones. So because when you've done 800, 1,000, 15, however many questions people do, eventually the weird ones come up. And sometimes they just come up in one big set or based on one big subject. You get more remedies questions one day, more future interest questions one day. Recognize that, and it's only going to be 4 or 5 bad ones that could ruin the whole set. Don't worry about that. It's not a problem. You see it, it's an aberration. I get back. And again, I talk about the numbers. If you're doing, I'm again using round numbers. If you're doing 40 a week, 40 a day, 280 a week, okay? Throw out the high, throw out the low. I was 72. That was a good day. I was at 52. That was a bad day. Throw those out. What's the average? The average is the important thing, not the 1 or 2 days, not the 1 or 2 bad. Big picture. Also, as far as your stats are concerned, for confidence, for being rational, for being honest with yourself, you only want to focus on, you have that calendar on Adaptabar for performance. You want to make sure that you're really focusing on how are you doing now in July. Remember, first several hundred questions, right? First three, the Adaptabar breaks up in those 350 sets. First 350, you were making a lot of stupid mistakes. First 350, you were learning a lot of law. You're kind of using the questions to kind of break the ice. Okay. Now you want to feel like, how am I doing on the last 350, the last 500, the last set you follow? So you can do that little thing on the settings button. What are my numbers as of July 1? I'm just, again, using a round date. You want to, I said earlier, the goal is to peak on exam day, not today or yesterday or tomorrow, not on one set. So how am I doing on the last 2, 3, 4, 500? Hopefully that's better than where I was. Because again, if you've done more than 1,000 questions, or once you do, even if you went 50 for 50 on a given day, your overall stat's not going up. So people see that number every day when they log in and they're frustrated. I got to get that number up. Sometimes you do so many questions, you can't, that number is not going to change drastically, but your day-to-day number can be continually going up. So even if your overall number is at 60.1, but the last 3, 5, 600 questions, you're at 66, 65, that means you're passing because now you're hitting your stride and you're peaking. And you can still do your best on exam day. Let's talk about that for a minute. If you can focus on reading better per day, retaining more law, buzzword, buzzwordy definition, and really try to fix whatever rules are slipping out versus whatever reading mistakes you're making. You can always be improving a little bit on each of those things and moving up. You can literally peak on exam day, because what's going to happen on exam day for most people that have done a bunch of questions? There's a lot of times where you'll sit there and you get a question, say, I know this one. I know I've blown this question 3 times in the last 3 weeks. It's always about that guy, and I always go with the other guy. But now, because you're focused more on the example, the hypo, the facts, you can literally say, okay, I've missed that the last 3 times, but I'm not missing it today. No, I'm getting it right today. A, shut up and pick it. Damn it. I know what I pick C, and it's always wrong. I'm going with A. And you can steal an extra 5 or 6 questions that you were not getting right all month. That's the power of focusing more on the why you were missing it the last 300-400 questions. And if you see a couple of those on the day of the exam, don't say, oh, I don't know this, I'm always getting these wrong. No, say, oh, now I know why I was getting them wrong, because I always was missing that phrase. Now I see that phrase, and I'm going to shut up and pick it. That's how you improve and actually peak on exam day. And that's why I have many students who've taken this more times than I want to tell you. And all of a sudden, call me after the result. I got a 150, John. How the hell did I do that? Because you literally got 8 or 10 questions right that you weren't getting right the last couple of times. Not from being smarter, not from doing more, just from being more efficient and recognizing why you were making those mistakes. Hearing the little voice in your head. The little voice this next couple of weeks is your best friend or it's your worst enemy. Okay? This is a mental game now. First time taker, repeat taker. That's certainly for the repeat takers, it's all a mental game, because I know how difficult it is to go back in that room just based on confidence. You need the chip back on your shoulder. How do I get it, John? You make yourself get it by proving to yourself, not to me, not to your mother, not to your school, yourself. I do know more law than I did before. Yes, yes. And I'm going to be more careful with my reading. I see that both of those things can really improve my scores. I just got to stick to that. What else should I do? Nothing. Don't get more, read more, do more. More law and better reading comp. That's how you shut up the bad voice in your head. The bad voice is always going to be talking about the doubts, the negativity. What if I don't? What if I forget? What if I don't know? Same thing happened the last couple of times at the bar. But that's why you want to keep thinking to yourself, if I practice differently for the last 3 weeks, the numbers will be different. The people who are just doing tons of practice are, unfortunately, many deemed to not be successful unless they get lucky, because they're not fixing the problem. First time taker. I told you at the beginning, I'll tell you again. Stay offline. Stay off Reddit. Stay off the blogs. Don't talk to all your idiot friends, right? Because what's happening? You ask one question, you get 14 different opinions. It's all stupid now. Okay? And you spread yourself too thin trying to do everything everybody says. Or you do what I call opinion shopping. You just look for someone whose opinion you agree with. You're looking for the answer you want, and then you go with that. Fundamentals. The fundamentals of the MBE are the buzzwords, knowledge, keeping those rules separate, not mushing them together, and the reading comprehension. If you can do a little better on each, maintain a mix set, you recite those rules, you focus on reading up here, not worrying about my stat or the answer, you will be shocked how better your scores are getting, more consistent your scores are getting. I recommend, again, this is very different for everybody, okay? Very different. I'm just big picture. The weekend before the bar, okay? If you're doing a state portion, you're taking part A on Tuesday, I recommend, again, everyone's different, big picture. I recommend Sunday should be your last new set of questions. Your last mix set, Sunday morning, early afternoon, I'm done. Monday, I go all in with my state prep, my essay prep, my multiple choice, my MPT, whatever you're doing in your jurisdiction on Tuesday. Make Monday about that day. Sunday, last practice set, leave it alone. Then Tuesday night after the first day, as I said earlier, do I recommend reading outlines? I don't, because you're exhausted, you're fried emotionally and physically, and whatever you know, you know. If it's going to make you feel better to look over some law, some subjects, of course, go ahead. We're all about confidence, all about making you feel better, whatever it's going to take. I really recommend, though, using some of those past questions, those past mistakes as great ways of reviewing, because whatever law you know, but you can always get more questions right from better reading comprehension. So on that Tuesday night, and even like I said, that Wednesday morning right before you leave, I'm just reviewing some reading mistakes to get my head wrapped again around and warmed up with and refocused on reading. You're only taking MBE. So again, Monday, I would make the last day of doing new, fresh sets of questions. Tuesday, I wouldn't do any new. I'd be reviewing my rules if you wanted to. And again, I would be looking at those old past missed questions just as a way. Don't sneak in a little set. I mean, if it's going to make you feel good, again, I'm not your mom. I'm just saying, usually we both know the danger is you miss a couple, you get nervous. There's no reason for that. You've done enough, but focusing on the reading. So again, I recommend practice daily set from now 7 days a week. I don't care what you're doing. If you need more time for essay or other prep, so you want to do less MBE a day, that's perfectly fine. But a daily mix set and that repetition of law, that's what really locks things in for sure. Then you have time for your other stuff, and or even if you don't want to micromanage. If you're taking Tuesday part A, Sunday should be your last day, and then really focus on your essay stuff on Monday. Your repeat taker, just chill on Tuesday, review some law and review those missed questions, and you're okay. Peak on exam day. This is just practice, good, bad, or indifferent. Good fundamentals for the next 3 weeks, better results. Don't know what the hell the question's about? Dumb everything down. That's what it's about. That's the only answer that talks about it. Shut up and pick it. Get it down to 2. They both look right. They're both about the right issue. Which one's more specific to the facts? Specific to the facts. That's the key. Just yesterday, as an example, quickly, I got an email from a student on, what was it about? Miranda. There were 2 answers about Miranda warnings in the question. One answer said something like, no, yes or no, whatever the conclusion was, I don't remember, because the guy volunteered the statement. The other answer was about no, because he waived his Miranda warnings. Okay, so listen to me. He knew it was about Miranda. He knew the rule. I called him. He said, custodial interrogation, John, I got it. So he got it down to 2. One said waiver of Miranda warnings. One said volunteer. So I looked at the hypo. First sentence of the hypo. First sentence, it said that the Miranda warnings were given to him. So I said to him, listen, when is voluntary statements important? If the guy just starts talking on his own. When is the waiver thing important? Well, when they give him his Miranda warnings and he just says, I don't need it, that's okay. And I got to take a look at line 1 of the hypo. And I'm surprised you didn't hear him scream all across the country. I didn't even see it, John. Oh my God. So there's your example of 2 answers that are both about the issue, Miranda. They both technically can be true answers. They both look the same, but one is only applicable to the facts, because in that hypo, the guy got his Miranda warning. So if he keeps on talking, he's waiving them. If he just started talking on his own and there were no Miranda warnings, then he would be making a voluntary statement. They both look good. They're both technically true, but only one was more specific to the facts. He missed that in line 1. That's what happens this time of year. That's why I say, if you make a mistake like that and you look at the first 2 sentences of the explanation and you say, I know the rule, I know what's going on here. The issue is what you missed in line 1, not line 14 of the explanation. Issue spotting, reading comp, slowing down in the facts, get more of these words, know what answer I'm looking for, shutting up and picking it. More confidence, more focus, more reading. Giving myself a chance on every question, that's what's going to raise those numbers. And ultimately, what's the last and most important thing you do? When you see that answer, whether you know it or not, like it or not, agree with it or not, what do? You shut up and pick it. You don't second guess, and for God's sakes, you don't change, and you don't say, I like the other one better. I'm just going to quickly scan the chat here or the Q&A just to see if there's any questions that I think are, broad enough. We'll answer a few questions if we can. Couple people talking about, is there still time to improve? What the hell have I been talking about for the last hour? Of course there's time to improve. Don't get fixated on the number. How can I improve? I either can be honest with myself and say, I do need a good hour or 2 or an evening reviewing an outline with more law. of a particular subject, because doing property or con law questions when I don't know enough law, that's not going to help me. I got to go back and put some more law. Once I feel better, hopefully you can then put more focus on the reading and all the things that I'm talking about. That is what's going to make you better and or more consistent. Again, I'm supposed to talk about MBE, but as you know, Adaptive Bar has an excellent writing program. There's not the quota of essays. The goal is to try to write as much as you can. You can't be writing, 12 hours a day, because you have to, again, balance that with MBE. I would just say the more you write, the better you're going to do. You don't want to burn out, but the more you can write, the better that you're going to do. Again, you don't want to be focusing on trying to learn a lot of new. You're trying to refresh, because most of you, whether you're a repeat taker or first-time taker, a lot of these words are in your head. It's not like you're learning. You've seen it, you've done it, you watch lectures, you've outlined, etc., especially for the repeat taker. So you're not trying to learn new. You're just trying to make sure you're refreshing and keeping what you already had or should have had in your head. The stuff that you know, you can know. And if you do more of that, that's really where the best scores are going to come from. Not learning the weird, but getting more questions right on the stuff that you can and should know. Yes, so again, for the people who are working, schedules, family, it's an issue, no question. That's where, again, I say it all comes down to quality over quantity. So instead of doing 40, if you need to do 20, you're going to write one essay instead of two. It still comes down to the same fundamentals for me, which are more law and more focused practice. Like I said, there's no magic number that just when you do a certain number of MB practice, you're automatically going to pass. And if you do less, you're going to fail. No, you just want to focus on more quality. Don't be reading, be reciting more law. Don't worry about how many questions. Try to do better on more questions by better reading comprehension. That is the key. So again, you're at time, you're a little behind, you have family, work commitments, etc. I only have an hour a day, John. I have 2 hours a day. I only can do this. Okay, I feel for you, I know. Then just make that time more efficient by not trying to check boxes, but really, really focusing on more rules and more reading comprehension. Quality over quantity. You don't have a choice anyway. So what if I don't finish this? And what if I don't finish that? Who cares if you don't finish? Get more questions correct on what you can know, make fewer reading mistakes, which everybody can do. And all of a sudden, like I say, you potentially can peak on exam day. Good. I wish you a lot of luck. Stick to Adaptive Bar. Stick to the plan. Stick to the program. Use the program correctly. Quality reading. Quality with the explanations. Don't just be doing all that stuff we talked about. And if you can focus on those fundamentals and principles, I know that you're going to see your number improve, and I know you're going to be successful. But when in doubt, when you cut, for those of you still here, you're in that room, that proctor yells begin. Remember, nerves are good. Fear is not. Nerves are good the weekend before and the morning of. The nerves keep you focused. The nerves keep you focused. Otherwise, we'd all fall asleep because we're exhausted. Fear is the bad thing. Most people are afraid of the result 3-4 months later. Bleep that. You worry about question number 1, number 3, number 9, 11, 28, 38, 99, 100, and 200. Read more correctly, and the number and the stuff will take care of itself. Nerves, welcome it. That's what keeps the adrenaline pumping. Fear, there's no fear. The only fear is if you haven't prepared. You don't know anything, right? Every exam, John, I have test anxiety. Listen to me. You have failing anxiety. You've taken exams for 10, 15, 20 years, for God's sakes. You got through law school, all right? You know how to pass a test. You're worrying about what happens later. Don't be a scoreboard watcher. Focus on what you need to do right now. Nerves, welcome them, get the fear out, and focus right now on how you read more. Because Aaron Rodgers will not help us. He is a baby prima donna. I already know that. And you know how I know that? Because just like you've done thousands of questions, I've been doing this since I'm 5 years old with the Jets. I know what's going to happen. I told you what was going to happen last year. I know what's going to happen this year. So that's why, like they say, the future is based on past results, right? So he's an idiot. He's going to act like an idiot. You have time to change any idiot patterns by being more careful with your reading. And if you now focus on what real professional athletes do, not the Jets, real professional athletes who practice fundamentals, that's why under pressure, when everyone's nervous, they actually perform really, really well. you have better fundamentals, okay? Because I coach you better than my guys play. You're my little Jets out there. So act like it. Good fundamentals, not like mine, good practice skills, and that's why you'll do really, really well on exam day. We're here for you. We're pulling for you. Keep good thoughts. Stay in touch if you need to. Use Adaptable in the way it was meant as a great educational tool. And I know that we're going to have tears of joy in a couple of months. It's been great. Thank you for hanging out with me. I know it's been tough. I look forward to seeing you. If you're in Florida at the convention center, I'll look forward to seeing you. If not, please feel free to stay in touch, but shut up and pick it and stay confident and aggressive. We'll see you soon. Thanks.